Welcome to Single Men Social Club, episode 3. My guest today, a hunter, an outdoorsman, and a CrossFit athlete, all in one, is joining me to discuss how his life's been. A good friend of mine, he is always motivating other people through social media. He's always been an inspiration to me through his commitment to his passions. And I can't wait to share the discussion I had with you today. Please welcome my guest, Tyler Boutilier.
Let me come down from the ceiling, put my feet back on the floor. 80 pounds of pressure, feel it deep inside the core. I've been flying high, but it's been harder to endure. Went from sitting on the bench to a starter on the court. Let me black out like the past passed out. I'm half maxed out, that close to tapped out. Take the wheel from me. Something wrong, man, I feel funny. Life is a monopoly.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Single Men's Social Club, episode 3. I'm here with my guest, Tyler Boutilier. Tyler, thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate it. I think you're going to be a great addition for the audience to share some of your insights. You've always been a guy that I've looked up to, even as a colleague and as a roommate and just as a friend. So I believe your mindset and your consistency is a huge benefit to the general audience, and I'm sure they're going to love to hear some of your stories today.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks. I appreciate it. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, man. Just for the audience, I obviously know a good amount about you, but just to get caught up with what you've been doing and whatnot, just give the audience a little background of how you ended up where you are, or, excluding any professional aspects, but just try to give people a kind of nutshell of where you grew up, how you developed, etc.
Yeah, obviously, Tyler Boutilier. I grew up in a rural town in Nova Scotia. Very small community where you weren't really challenged, to my belief, a lot socially in your ruts, your people down the road. I moved away from home, then I moved back, tried the whole college thing. At a younger age, it really wasn't one for me, and I took the leap of faith and dropped out, did my own thing for a few years, moved to another town away, probably about an hour away from my hometown. Not big compared to what a lot of people do, to my understanding, but Nova Scotia is a pretty small province. Everything isn't far in comparison to a lot of different provinces. Through that, I moved to a town where really I had no relatives. I stayed around, met friends, created my own little, everyone does it when they grow up. They get their own. You have your high school friends, your life friends, your coworker friends, and I developed life friends here. Small circle, but very great circle. Very like-minded individuals, similar hobbies, but also similar values too. So people I can really bounce ideas off of. I grew up wrestling through high school. So athletically wise, I've always been pretty athletic. I've always found that gives me a lot of it shuts my brain off, and because in day to day, and I didn't realize how much that would benefit me later in life. I just thought it was a good stress reliever and whatnot. Can't wrestle forever. Then just got into the gym, and I was always skinny growing up. I was a kid that I was told I should be wearing a shirt to the beach type of thing, just because I was skinny. I was
right,
I was
lanky.
Yeah, I was 6'3". I was 6'3" at 145 pounds, 140 maybe, something like that. And I remember, to this day, those group of girls. The group of girls I always thought were attractive. I always wanted to hang out with them, because that's when you're 16, 17, 18. That's what you want to do. You want to hang out with the it girls, and I'm for whatever reason. But yeah, and I remember one of them looking me dead in the eyes and say, "Tyler, you should just start wearing a shirt to the beach." And I was like, "Whew." And as athletic as I was at that age, I was like, "Oh, so still not there." I had abs, but I was skinny, right? Yeah. And I was like, okay, right on. So then shortly after that, I got into the weights hard. I set the Yeah, and was it built from that comment or those comments? I don't necessarily think so, but it definitely helped. Yeah, look back at it now, 100%. Yeah, yeah. Got in the weights. At one point, I think I made I remember this is when YouTube was taking off. Instagram just started, Facebook was there, but it really wasn't. It was like MSN days essentially because I'm 30,
Right.
31 years old, man.
Right.
So Instagram was just starting off. Facebook was there. YouTube was big. Don't know why, but YouTube was fucking huge. And what was it? I remember finding like a YouTuber and he was just all about like fitness. And I like lived on that damn channel and I just self-taught myself like how to help myself in the gym in a rural community. Like you don't have the good life fitness. You don't have the big commercial gyms. I worked out in a library gym. It was underneath a library for fucking 2 years, dude.
Right.
Then when I moved to a bigger community, then I could get like the good life type of style works out, like the commercial gym. That
Right.
was fun. And I made like a goal to myself that I was gonna like step on stage, not as a bodybuilder, but like a men's physique competitor. It just seemed more realistic for me
Mm-hmm.
because I knew I wasn't gonna get like at 6'3". I had big goals, yes, but I was realistic with it with setting them. I said, I'm 6'3". There's no way I'm getting 280 to stand. I'd still be skinny at 230. So I was like,
Did you ever have that sort of stage fright or anything where you're not only am I people judging my physique, I'm also like being vulnerable and getting on stage and doing something that's way outside of my comfort zone too.
yeah, because wrestling was different. I remember like standing like in the mid, like you're in a singlet, dude.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You're in a singlet wrestling, and the biggest crowd I think I ever did, I don't know, probably like 2,000 people.
Yeah. And
Probably
that's a
2,000.
but that's a lot, right? Like when you
Yeah, and
think
that
about it.
that's it was a different feel because I never thought about being watched as a wrestler because you're it's like that your corner, their corner, and you and that person, right? That's all you really.
You're more in the sport. You're more in the sport like dialed in. You almost have like an aura, but with like bodybuilding, it's almost one of those things where but this is what I thought of just right now is you probably feel pretty confident because of the hours that you've invested. Like you're day in day out. Like you remember waking up, you remember like the diets, you remember stuff
Oh,
like that. So
dude,
it's
I always say because right now there's a big fitness move on young people getting involved with fitness, and it's great. There's another side of that coin though that nobody really talks about, and I've dabbled with it. Like I wouldn't even say unfortunate. I'm pretty real with it, man. I've dabbled with steroids for 6 years of my life, pretty intensely.
right.
Uh, so anybody even getting into it when they ask me, I say, hey man, I'm not against steroids. I'm not pro steroids. I'm for you living your life as healthy as you can for as long as you can. Because getting into fitness, I believe, and I say it all the time, man, the goal with fitness is to ride fitness as long as your wheels fall off, essentially. Like
Right.
you need to be a good father. I really think you should have to be a good man to yourself. You should have a good fitness base to excel in the hobbies you want to. Generally, you need a pretty good base in fitness. You don't need to be top tier, but I think you should be dabbling with making yourself move better, run quicker, lift better, be quicker. Like all those things come into play.
Well, it's always like you always want to be challenging yourself. Just like you
Yeah.
would challenge yourself mentally, you would just want to challenge yourself physically as well. And there has to be obtainable goals, or you can't plateau because that's
Oh,
kind of
100%.
that's where like complacency is the worst. So
Yeah. Oh,
I
100%.
I totally agree with you in terms of having that baseline or even having an idea of growth because even I feel like some people they get into the work life where some of the personal stuff falls off and then it becomes this vicious cycle, right? And they just they look back and they just go, oh shit, like where am I at? What am I
Yeah, I'm
doing?
I
Right.
was here, now I'm here, but you get so far off.
And I think that's the good thing about setting even with the couple guests that we've had on, we talked about like obtainable goals or like treating people with dignity. But it also comes to like introspectiveness where you say you got to give yourself like you got to give yourself patience, like you got to give yourself dignity. So like
You gotta give yourself
even
grace. I say that all the time,
right,
man. You gotta give
yeah.
yourself. Yeah.
Let's get into some of the stuff that I want to talk about with you, just to get the audience to just to get all the different sides of you. And this is a way for me to understand more about your hobbies and what you like to do, and just a way for me to understand it more and get to translate that to the audience. And I know that like hunting is a huge thing for you. I
Yeah.
remember going bear baiting with you, and we had a significant memory where I was like, what if a bear comes?" And you just showed two fists, and you were like, "This is it, man." I really cherish those times. Those were really fun. I never took it into hunting on my own. I went like baiting with a couple friends here, but it's always been something that like stuck with me, and I've been a little bit more comfortable like experimenting with hunting because of the initial interactions that I was able to get from you. How
Very
like
serious.
yeah, and what drew you to hunting initially, and like how has it shaped your life and kind of your daily routines today?
I never thought about it shaping my life, but come full circle, it did. I've been involved with the outdoors in general as long as I can remember. You grow up in a rural community, like really rural, you're gonna be outdoors, whether you it's either that or stay indoors. And
Yeah.
there's
Oh
not too.
yeah.
When I grew up, man, you didn't like Instagram and all this shit wasn't really popping off the way it is now, where
Right.
people can sit in their bed and just that was
And it's
not a
awesome
thought.
to make money
Yeah,
too, right? Like how many
thing,
people
right?
are able to buy a tripod now and
Yeah.
just go in the middle of the street and be like, "All right, cool, we're doing it."
Yeah, it's a little bit different, but now I'm pro social media. I think it's a really good tool. But going back to it, yeah, I grew up like hunting and fishing, and some things I really my parents, my father's side of my family, the Aboriginal side of my family, I've always been involved pretty heavily with outdoors. Like it was very fall when fall hit. It was my best memories were Halloween when we would go down. Legit, it was a street full of my family members, and we would see Halloween was always a good luck night, evening to hunt, and we would go door to door, not to get candy, but to see people's deer they shot.
Hmm. Yeah.
And people are that's such a weird thing. It's me being 8 years old to be doing that. So it was being a provider, and that's the way I really look at it when it comes down to it, because none of my family really hunt for. It's cool to get the big racks. It's cool to pursue mature animals, but always the sole intention was, okay, we have meat for the year,
Hmm. And
and
that's really good.
that's
Yeah.
huge, man. Like like that instilled in me so long. I mean, when I moved away from home, I didn't hunt for I think 3 or 4 years. Then I bought a compound bow, and I was always interested in archery hunting. And as soon as I like killed my first deer with an arrow, I'm like, man, this is what my family was talking about. Not only is this a way to provide, but this is a way to find fulfillment in a hobby and like true, like what you talked about, like true grit. Okay, I just spent how many hours in the woods, didn't see an animal. Now I got an opportunity to actually put 100 plus pounds of meat in my freezer,
Hmm.
and that's there's some I. The first thing people come through my house and they ask about hunting or anything, I always offer them like, hey, you want to take some ground deer, ground bear, or whatever home, like you want to try it. They ask me how to cook it, and I say, hey, it's meat. It's you cook it like normal.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it instilled in me, and I'm so used to hunting being a part of my life and the outdoors being a part of my life. And I always looked at it as being a provider for a very long time, but now I look at it much more as it's almost like a way to recenter myself, man. Like it sounds very silly and it sounds very cliche to say, but to sit in the woods for hours on end and watch the woods come awake and go to sleep is like pretty damn cool. Pretty damn cool experience.
Almost like poetic.
Therapeutic, I'd almost
Yeah.
say, man. Like, because we're used to we're in a life now, and I get it. I get caught up in it myself with just the stimulation, the likes, I need to be doing something. I need to be going to that event. I need to go to I need to go to Wings with my friends. We're gonna go do this, and let's go. Fall, man, is my time, and it is my time to just recenter and say, slow down. It's all gonna be right. And out of that slowing down, great success happens. I provide meat, right? I buy meat at the market like once a week, and if I do, it's chicken wings.
Hmm. Well, I
It's very,
remember that you would always work a shit ton of overtime, and then around fall season, you'd always tell people like, "Yo, I'm grinding out. I'm grinding out now."
I'll work my schedule,
Yeah,
but I ain't
and then
doing
you're
that.
like, exactly, and it's very like cool to see because you don't see a lot of that where people actually have like full line drive passions where they're like, "Okay, I hold this to an actual standard in the like the
Yeah,
amount
I
of
hold
time and
myself there.
effort."
hold my
Right.
fucking self there.
And so, when you started hunting, was there ever like a time where you felt you got humbled, whether that be from like another hunter or the animal itself, where you were like,
Oh,
oh
yeah.
shit, this isn't as like easy as it is. Like, oh fuck, I thought I really had it, and now I feel like a
Yeah.
dumbass.
Yeah, I that kind of happens every year in a different way. There's a few times where it really, I always say I'm very fortunate. I'm very lucky to have some of the opportunities that some of the animals I killed. Because a lot of people in Nova Scotia would probably say I'm a very successful bow hunter. I don't rifle hunt. I
Mm-hmm.
never killed a big game animal with a rifle. So a lot of people would say I'm a very successful bow hunter, and I appreciate that. That's cool to get that recognition.
100%.
I would say I'm very lucky. But again, a lot of people will challenge that to me and say, Todd, you're one of those guys that like you go like you, and I appreciate that. I appreciate that people understand like I have go in me with my passions, and that's something that I grew up like I didn't really half-ass a lot of things. And when I got humbled, man, like there was, I think it was trail cameras. So like we set up trail cameras to see like what animals are in the area and is there one, take away from like the whole trophy hunting thing. A lot when people trophy hunt, it's because yes, the big antlers are cool, but that's also the most mature animal. That's the oldest animal. So that animal had the most opportunity, the most years in to spread its genetics. So the most ethical kill is to kill the older animal. Does
Mm-hmm.
that make sense?
Yes. Yes.
It's had a fair share of life.
It's had its lifetime. It's kind of
Yeah,
like
the average male
served
deer
its
is going to
purpose.
live to about a healthy 7, 8 years. That's most.
Right.
So if you in that area you are hunting, you can pursue and hold true to killing that 5-year-old deer. That's a good goal. They are smarter though. Like
Mm-hmm.
you are in for a challenge. It's a huge chess
Right.
match.
They've had to
Uh,
survive a lot longer.
They know the game, man. They
Right.
know the game. They know what to look for. You think that they don't know that what that trail camera is? You're silly, bro. Actually, one moment that I really sticks out to me when I got humbled was, man, I shot a lot of bears. I'm pretty successful. Every year I had the opportunity to kill a black bear. And people say, oh, they're just black bears. Man, you put them in the middle of the wilderness. You know where I hunt. You've been there.
Yeah.
And I shot one really respectful bear, and man, that bear was in and out. I'm all for waiting for a good shot and making sure because you owe it to the animal. You hold, and I tell people, you hold a huge responsibility pulling the trigger on a living animal. That is a huge responsibility you're going to take. Make sure that shot is the best shot that you can get. So my best bear to date, it was in and out of the bait in the run of an hour 6 different times and wouldn't give me a proper shot opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually it did. It gave me a window, got a shot off, and the animal died. It was great. It was friends. It was a great night, great evening.
Right.
Fast forward 2 years later, a bear probably about 100 pounds bigger. And then the bear before was closer to 300-pound bear. This probably, I would say, probably about a 400-pound bear.
Right.
This thing came in and it came from my left, and the one tree, and this is where, yeah, dude, like it's like last light, like everything about this was intense. It was the last 20 minutes of light. I'm shooting with a bow, so I need to be able to see like my peep sight, I need to be able to see my sight housing. This thing walks in from the left, and the one tree, and this is why I'm so anal about everything with my hunting setups now. This thing reminded me. It came and it sat in front of the one bush I did not cut that was only 3 feet tall.
Mm-hmm.
And it covered the one spot I had to shoot. Like it was perfect. He sat down, and like Ryan, when this thing sat down, man, it would look like a Samoan sitting down. I was like, boof. And it just, the
Yeah.
whole body of it shook.
Just
Dude, it was insane. And I'm sitting there and I just remember just shaking. And I'm waiting. And all of a sudden I see him getting a little antsy. He wants to stand up to go to the bait, or he wants to stand up. And I said, when he stands up, I'm just pulling this fucking thing back. And I'm lining up and I'm letting this arrow rip. It's gonna be rushed, but I'm gonna get it.
mm-hmm.
He stands up, I draw back, he runs off. Never seen that bear again.
Right.
And could I, if you run that back with that tree there, without that tree there, could I have got a shot off? I don't know. He was sitting. I would never have shot a sitting down bear. It
Right.
changes their vitals. Goes back to me saying about an ethical, a responsible shot. To me, that wouldn't have been there.
And then the bear would be injured, and you'd be following it for
Yeah,
days.
but I don't know. That humbled me a lot in the sense of because I was on a tear of very good harvests, and I'm like,
Right.
I assumed when that thing walked out, I was like, oh, this thing's a done deal. And that was the first animal that walked out that I said, oh, this is what I'm taking.
Mm-hmm.
That's the first animal that walked out, and I didn't get the opportunity to make something happen. So that really humbled me a lot. Yeah. So I don't know, just being, I don't know if I would have been just a little more hyper focused, maybe if I would have did a little more prep work, maybe cut that branch out, like maybe, but I don't know. I don't live in it, but it reminds me.
But it is crazy where you're talking about something instinctual, and it's something
Cleared. There was one tree. It was one tree so small.
Yeah.
But
That's good because then you take it you check your strategies, you see what you're doing, and then you're back to the drawing board.
Yeah.
What do you think for any beginner hunters listening? What do you think some essential skills that everybody, and this can be in general, just doesn't matter, bow hunting, rifle hunting, or just hunting in general. What do you think are some essential skills that a hunter should try to have?
Man, just get involved. Like the cool thing now, and I was asked this on a podcast there last year, like new people getting into it. I said, man, like the cool thing about social media and what I really like is you have so much info and so much experience at your fingertips. So much. If you don't, like, I encourage, that's why I'm pretty active on social media in the sense, like, when hunting season comes around and like fitness and whatnot, I'm pretty active with like stories and stuff because I want people to always think, I'd like to be one of those sources for people that you can reach out. It's that easy. So just getting involved and don't feel silly about any questions because if you're starting out, nobody expects you to know anything. And I tell like that goes with anything, fitness, job, hunting, outdoors. Like there's gonna be rookie questions. They've been asked before. Like the amount of time I got the same message all the time, and I've answered it relatively the same, and I don't mind. It's the same. I understand the person on the other end asking me these questions. They weren't brought up like me. They don't have the experiences I have. They're asking for a genuine reason. They're interested. Yeah, just get involved, ask the questions. If you do have someone who is involved with the outdoors, hunting, fishing, whatever it is, just reach out to them. For the most part, Ryan, you knew nothing about it, and I had no problem taking you out, showing you a little bit about it.
And even just the amount of people where like you have these apps and you have a strong community, and even when you would go to all these different locations to get like fryer grease and old pastries and shit like that, right? Where it's like how much of that like small town element
really comes
that
together.
Community propped you up a bit, or like it made the transition to get into it a little bit more hardcore, a little easier.
Oh,
because
definitely.
there was a lot of support.
Definitely, 100%.
I feel like this is important because there's always that controversy with hunting. Are you able to explain to the audience? I don't think people understand the role in terms of like how hunters are like essential for like wildlife conservation and keeping like numbers down, and how sometimes it's not always to, and this might not be like specific to Nova Scotia, but like hunters do like an essential role in terms of keeping a lot of populations down.
Especially your way, dude.
Yeah, and can you just like briefly explain that in general of like how that is like on the other side of the community, of it actually helps the general public in terms of keeping certain populations down that are like rampant?
Yeah, actually, this is something I'm trying to get involved in with more, or just trying to be more knowledgeable about it, because as a hunter, I hold myself at a high standard in the sense of I am the boots on the ground, like the guys that are going to be talking to people about hunting, and I never want to seem like one of those The days of the stereotypical hunter, beer drinking, shooting from the road, like those days are so done. And I think that's what a lot of people think of when they think of like hunting. And it's so far from that. They think, oh, they're just people that just want to get drunk with their buddies and shoot some animals and take their antlers home. And that is so far from the truth. Even if there's a group of guys that go to a camp and hunt for the weekend and they all fill their tags, good for them. That's the way they enjoy it. There's nothing wrong with that. Those tags that you are buying are wellly thought out in the sense of head counts and population density. And if there are tags available, then that's the government saying, we believe that the numbers are strong enough to support this hunt. The money put into those tags. So when I buy a tag, that's money going back into the province. Nova Scotia is the most in-depth province, I believe. And they just shut down a spring bear hunt we were trying to open. I was like, oh, that was an opportunity for Nova Scotia to help with their debt. Even though that money should be going back into hunting and conservation, it is an opportunity because a lot of people say, oh, you can't put a price on an animal. I was like, okay, so you just want people just to kill them? Because that's I think if you put a price on a white-tailed deer, a bear, an elk, a moose, it's everyone gets more benefit from it because that's money going back into the province.
Someone has some collateral. Like it's not
Yeah,
just like a free
exactly.
for all out there. Like someone actually has to risk something.
Hunting has been a part of. Without hunting, the human race wouldn't have survived, hands down. It wouldn't have. We wouldn't have thrived. It wouldn't have. We didn't know we could eat the plants that we could that we do now. We didn't have the means to, hey, all for the vegans and vegetarians, but to do that way back in the day, you died.
Oh yeah.
Unpopular, like that may trigger some people.
100%.
I get it. That may trigger some people, and that's not the intention, but our race would have collapsed if we were in the caveman days, and this is where you need to go. If you're in the caveman days and you came to the cave and you told your mom, I'm not eating meat anymore, she probably would tell you, okay, you have a week to live.
Right.
So since day one, there's always been a hunt going on. There's like humans have hunted. It's in our natural bloodline. We're partaking in the natural occurrence in life. Like it's in the natural life circle. And a lot of people, I get it. A lot of people don't do that anymore, and that's fine. But there is a sense of like accomplishment and almost like a historical root. I don't know how to explain it, but it's very spiritual when you walk up to an animal that you just harvested, you executed a good shot. And there's almost a sense of accomplishment when a coworker asks, hey, Tyler, can I try some deer sausage? Yeah, sure. And I hand him that. And that is something that I harvested.
Yeah.
And
the work it took.
Yeah. And I get that opportunity to show them the benefits, the fruits of my labor. That's unreal. It plays a huge role. I don't think I get it because we're in a culture now. There's a huge movement, a huge culture where it's like, we don't need to do that anymore. I was like, okay, there's a lot of things we don't necessarily have to do in the world, and we still do. I truly believe, though, hunting is one of the things we need to do. Out west, now don't quote me because I'm not your way. I believe they shut down in BC. I don't know if it's still shut down. They shut down like a grizzly hunt, and then all of a sudden, 2 years later, the grizzly numbers are just ridiculous. What did you expect?
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
there was probably all this protesting and this and that to not have it.
Like and here they have the numbers to support for the spring bear hunt here, and it got shut down. And when I don't want to get into this too much, but when I seen the stats of whose votes were taken into consideration, and it was very unfair voting the way it was done. But the thing was, we had the numbers that wanted to partake. And it would have given more people opportunity to put meat in the freezer and control the bear population because they said the bear population, we have the numbers to support a spring bear hunt. Because people just didn't want it because they thought it was unfair for the bear. We didn't get it. It got shut down, I believe, 2 days before we were supposed to start selling tags. And now I'm curious to see 3 years' time where the bear population is because you think it's bad now.
Right. Just wait till no one's hunting them.
Yeah, it was. And we still have our fall bear hunt, but a lot of people don't fall bear hunt because it gets in the way of like their deer season. Springtime, like a lot of people have more like free time. It would have gave them an opportunity to be in the outdoors, disconnect, get that like sense of harmony I was telling you about, sitting in the woods, watch it come alive, go to sleep, all that kind of stuff. That is, I believe it's super healthy for just humans to be outdoors. Maybe
And
that's
just
just
to
because
be
I
clear for the audience, you can buy a tag, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to shoot a deer or you're going to get
no,
a bear, right?
okay.
So it's one of those
That's all
things where
at
it's
that point. I believe there's no spot, I want to say, in Canada that there's 100% success rate when you buy a tag.
right.
So that's money just going back into the.
Exactly. And it shows a level of skill that you need to have. And I think that's because it's one of those things where like you can pay for the entry, but you might not necessarily get the prize. Like you still have to come in and you still have to do your thing, scout an area, bait, watch it, you know what I mean? Be going out, scouting.
Like I'm fortunate enough to be a part of a lot of people who started hunting and they got hooked, and I got part of helping people get established in like the hunting world, and them not get hooked and realize there's so many moving parts to it that wow. I know a handful of guys that are hunting their fourth year now that still haven't killed something, and
Right. And
I
even just
told
the method of hunting, right? Bow hunting, shooting out of a deer stand, shooting from a ground blind. There's so many different ways that you can.
spot stock. There's so many different ways.
Like I remember one year you were in a deer stand, the next time you had the little hut where you were feeding the deer apples, and then you had it on like a line sight where essentially you could just be rested, and then once it
Yeah.
came into your field of view, you were good. But then there's
Yeah.
another time where you had more of an open area and had the deers coming to an open area and you were in like a deer stand. So it was
Yep.
just like interesting to see the different ways that hunters tackle that type of stuff. And it's like it's a sport among itself. And when you look at like even like hockey or basketball or whatever, it's then you start looking at, I get into it, and then I'm getting into the fine detail of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I say that
Where
all
it's
the
like
time, man.
now
There's a
like
base.
in the cut.
There's a
Right.
base level to everything, and then there's just layers of getting deeper.
Right.
And I know a lot of your audience is probably out west, and man, Nova Scotia hunting is probably a little bit easier to get into than out west, because out west, you guys have the golden area, like so
And
rich in game. But
and it's
it's a
so
different
it's
depth there, man.
complicated. It's so complicated where you have like crown land and this type of land and where I can hunt
Yeah.
and it's all on apps and it's even seeing like where you are doing your type of hunting where it's a little bit more traditional. Oh, as long as I ask this person if I can hunt in their backyard, like it's usually pretty
It
good.
still falls under the same kind of things. Like crown land is free game, private land needs to be posted. Like there is a lot of stipulations. Just so much of your guys' land is bought.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of your guys' crown land is so north. Like it,
Right.
you know, like I have a few buddies I talk to it that way. A few family members and a few buddies I just met through like social media,
Mm-hmm.
and like they have people that they know that own just these massive acreages, and that's where they hunt. Like their families hunted there, and I'm just like, you guys are lucky because some people need to go so far north or like even
Right.
further west or what have you
Well,
to get those opportunities.
and I don't think at home, like, how much did you dabble in like ice fishing and stuff? Because like here, it's like pretty big. Like a lot of people.
My family does a fair amount, not a lot, but there's a lot of people that do a fair amount of ice fish around here, but it's not those big lunkers that you guys get out there.
Yeah, like they have like giant huts and like coal
Oh
stoves.
yeah,
And it's like out of control.
and it's layers. It's layers to it
Yeah,
all, man. You
yeah,
can get into soccer as
yeah,
just a casual player, but if you want, there's layers,
yeah.
right?
And it's really interesting. It's interesting to see too, like people's different lifestyle and how like how, shit. Like I might not find a joy in that, but it's very admirable to see like someone have the ability to like peel back
Dude,
the layers in that niche. Sorry.
comes back to passion. When you see
Yeah.
people exercise like their passions, you're like, man, like it's. I say all the time, like someone playing guitar,
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
someone playing guitar, like, and they really like they're part of that guitar. Watching them
They're
play,
making magic.
yeah, it's the same thing when you see. So a lot of people say like when they see me with an animal in the back of my truck, they're just like, Tyler, it's crazy to see you like that, almost like in a state of excitement and a high. but also at peace. Because it's making it all come together, and it's legit like your passion at the highest. So I think anybody who sees someone in their passion it's nice to just see, and it's nice to know that your friend has a passion that they can exercise, right?
This is a two-parter. First part,
Yep.
do you think when you're around your peers, like the idea of hunting or catching something isn't necessarily like a want to attainable, like they're with the way things are going and the way society's going, like more people are leaning to technology based or something that's a little bit less dirty or whatever it is, like people really don't want to get their hands dirty. So because it's a little bit more admirable, do you think it's easier to get that support? And again, do you think that you're in a path on your own that not necessarily many people want to chase, so it's not like a threat to them? So say if you were trying to be a model in Halifax and everybody else, how many friends are not going to be your friends, or how many people are going to try to fuck you over because they don't want to see you succeed? But like, how many people want to be in ground blinds for 8 hours a day? And like the idea that you're so driven, you have this passion. Do you think that it's one of these things where you just like where people just go, oh, it's very easy for me to give this guy praise because there's not like this guy's such in a league of his own. There's not really competition.
Oh, that's a good way to put that. I never thought of it like that. I do think I'm in a league of my own in the sense of like hunting's competitive, but not in the sense of everyone thinks. Like everybody wants everyone to do very good. I considering where the world is at and where like how hunting is like a different thing. It really is. It's not like everything else now. It's not like the fitness high that's going around.
Right.
I think a lot of people really are intrigued through my experience. A lot of people ask questions. They're very curious with it. They ask a lot of questions. So I enjoy that. And then they see me talking about it, and then I get excited just like this. And again, it's a way for me to display my passion without even doing it. So it's nice. And then they see that and they're like, oh yeah, this guy loves it. Like it's all good. The first part of that question, I forget it.
Yeah. No, I'm even trying to remember how I worded it. Basically, do you think like it's very easy to get like a kind of support in doing hunting because I guess it's like in Nova Scotia, it's more like culturally accepted.
No, and not anymore.
No?
Yeah. So to touch on that, supported by like friends and peers, yes. By everyone else, it seems not to be that way. Just with the way that the world's going, they just believe it's not like something that needs to be pursued anymore. Right. And I couldn't be so far away from. I can't even come to believe any of that. Like when people start talking, we're so far away from it. I was like, I don't know about that. So I'm supported highly by like my friends, family, coworkers, like even my management at work, man. They know when hunting season comes around, don't even ask them to work extra. Right. They're very supportive. Tyler's worked extra all year. And now for him I don't really put in vacation for the fall. Sometimes I do if I really need to fill a tag. But yeah, no, everyone's pretty supportive. It just seems like globally and like worldwide or like provincially or whatever, however you want to word it, when it comes into a grand scheme of things, unfortunately, like hunters do get the backlash. Like you can post a fish on the internet, nobody gives a shit. You post a dead deer or dead bear, man, I've got death threats.
Yeah, like people go ultra.
Oh man, and I get it. I get it because everyone's tough behind a phone. That's the shitty side of social media. That like everyone has an opinion. And even if that opinion is a good one or a bad one, it's worth nothing. To be very...
Yeah. And when you think about it, too, and this is bringing me to my next, like, caveat to, like, again, like, where the respect comes in place and, like, how people understand it. It's really interesting because you look at a thing like hunting where it's like, how much are people not seeing the other... They talk to you for 20 minutes, but they don't necessarily understand the other 23 hours and 40 minutes that you're doing.
I would argue that I'm a very good person for anyone who's against hunting to talk to. I've had a lot of conversations with people who know nothing and aren't in support of it, and they've had a conversation with me like, oh, okay, I get that. Yeah. So I don't know. I'm pretty open-minded when it comes to see other sides of it. I think it's just because we're like I need to be open-minded because this is where the world's at today. But at the same time, it doesn't mean I'm wrong for what I like and what my passions are. But I'm going to be a good representation to talk to and deliver the ideologies I have. Does that make
and
sense?
it seems like you already keep like a good ethical approach in terms of like how you're hunting, where like you're factoring in like the lifespan of the animal and what
Yeah.
type of shots, calculated shots, right? Like you want it to be as less suffering as possible. And again, like you're making sure you harvest as much of the meat as you can that is edible, and you're going and getting the bear, like you're going and getting it like the rack done. You're going, you know what I mean? So like some of it are more of a, I don't want to say trophies because it's not necessarily trophies, but it could almost be like a way of remembering or a way of honoring that animal in terms of
Yeah,
like,
like you walk into my one of my rooms in my house, man, and I can tell you every story of every animal that's on the wall.
exactly, right? So, and I
And
think,
it's huge, man. I can sit there and tell you how the whole thing went down.
right.
Right?
And that's crazy. And again, I don't want to stay on this topic anymore because we have a shit ton to talk about. It is very interesting to see your side of hunting, and it's very cool to see it translate to people in Alberta and how they view it, and how there's a lot of similarities, but there's also a lot of differences in terms of like how here it's more of a, like you can see more of it's like a corporate thing, or it's more of a more, it's a little bit more, I don't want to say advanced because I don't have a clue. I don't have any hands-on experience. I'm only getting
I would say
the
that.
experience.
I would agree with that. I would say out there it's way more advanced, and I feel like some people from Nova Scotia would get triggered when saying that. But
Mm-hmm.
I have friends that hunt out there. I have family members that hunt out there. Dude, you need to have your shit together
Yeah,
to
and
go
some
west.
people just explain it. It's like they're talking a different language to me. But I want to get on the topic of fitness because you've always been into fitness. When I knew you, when I was working with you, living with you, you were doing the traditional fitness. I think you were mixing a lot of like calisthenics and stuff like that. But then throughout the years, I seen that you made like a full commitment to CrossFit. Can you just tell me about like how that happened, how you dabbled into it? Was it a community thing? Was it more of a thing that you found on your own, or was it introduced to you by someone else?
One of my girlfriends at the time, she said I remember like she wanted to try because she wanted to change up her fitness approach. And I would say I was a very bro lifter before, like when it came to fitness. I just wanted to look good,
Deadlifts,
lift.
bench.
Yeah, I wanted to be strong. Like nothing else really mattered. I couldn't give a shit about running. I couldn't give a shit about pulling up on a bar. No, I wanted to pull a bar. I wanted to push a bar. I wanted to squat a bar. So my girlfriend at the time, she was trying this CrossFit thing, and she told me, I think you'd actually like, take off to this. And when someone tells you you're gonna probably do good at something, you're like,
Yeah.
fine, I'll fucking be good at this.
Yeah.
So I went to a foundations class with no real intention. I didn't know. I had no expectations. I went to a foundations class, and the coach, who was happened to be the owner of the gym, he put me through a foundations class, and he said, "What's your plan for the rest of the day?" I said, "Oh, I'm going to go to the gym and work out now." He said, "Oh, you want to work out now?" I said, "What do you mean? What do you want to do?" And he's just, "Oh, we can just do a benchmark workout." And "You're going to go to the gym, probably work out for what?" I said, "Probably an hour and a half, 2 hours." He's just like, I said, "Cool." He said, "You got 15 minutes? Do you got 15, 20 minutes?" I said, "Yeah, sure." He's like, "We're going to do a workout. And if anybody's listening and you do CrossFit," he says, "this is my first time in a gym." He says, "Yeah, we'll do Fran." And I said, "Cool. Like, what's that?" He's like, "You can do pull-ups." Yeah. He's like, "You can do thrusters." I said, "Yeah." And it's just like, basically you do a front squat with the bar, and then you do a shoulder press at the top. He said, basically you're going to do 21, 15, 9. So 21 pull-ups. No, 21 thrusters, 21 pull-ups, 15 thrusters, 15 pull-ups, 9 thrusters, 9 pull-ups. He's like, "How long do you think that'll take you?" I said, "Probably 10 minutes." And he's okay. So we start the clock. I do it. Takes me like 13 minutes. And Ryan, I was ready to die.
Just bad.
I went, so I played it cool. I pulled out of the parking lot dying. I didn't want to show the gym owner that he just wrecked me.
Yeah.
I went to Good Life and laid on the ground. in front of the AC. Like I was not in a good spot,
Yeah.
but I was right because I did go to Good Life for an hour, but I just laid on the ground for an hour.
Right.
And
That's crazy. And
it was
especially with the
probably,
experience you have, right? You going into it being like, oh, this isn't shit.
dude, I was so humbled. And it was such a different way. I said, oh man, because the barbell was only 95 pounds. I said, dude, I can throw a 95-pound barbell across the room. It was like no other. And I think that coach seen it in me at that time. He's like, nah, like he's athletic, like he can take it. This is what's going to bite him into CrossFit. And 100% it did. After that, I said no. And I still do the movements I love, and I'm still strong at them. I'm still a strong squatter. I'm still a
Right.
strong deadlifter.
This is just another thing you're adding to your bag.
Dude, change it. Like now I just want to be like very fit. I don't want to be strong. I want to change, like come full circle. Like,
Like you want to be more well-rounded.
yeah, I want to be like, I hike a lot.
Mm-hmm.
You can't hike being just a strong guy.
Because
I'm planning on a hike this coming weekend. It's 52 kilometers. It's going to take 2 to 3 days.
right.
So ridiculous to
Right.
think. So it fit my lifestyle better. It fits it better for CrossFit, and it fits. I always told you, I believe I told you this. You want to work out and you want to diet the way that you can do for the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever that is. If you just like running and you can run 3 days a week and you think that's something that you can do for the rest of your life, do that.
Mm.
I'm not saying that there's one way to work out, there's one way to diet. I'm saying find the way that fits your lifestyle and your personality and ride it.
Right.
So I truly think now, and getting a little deeper, at some point, I do want to be a father. I do want to have kids or a kid, and I want to be an able body to my kids for years on end. If they are anything like me, I would love to be able to say, "Hey, Dad, I shot my first deer," and I don't want to be able to say, "Oh, yeah, I can't help them call that out because I'm just not fit." Because
Right.
fitness will translate to everything in your life. It's shitty that it's like that, but your body will give you what you want out of it for as long as you want. You just need to do that work. So if I want to be able to be in the outdoors when I'm 60, I'm doing the right thing now. I'm taking care of it now.
Right.
And CrossFit showed me the things that I do need to pay attention to, like mobility, flexibility. I go see a physiotherapist and it's not even for anything. I just tell him, like, always, hey, let me see your workouts. Like, I'll record a lot of my movements
Mm-hmm.
and I'll make mental notes of like things, and he'll run through my body and say, okay, this is why it may be acting up a little bit. And we'll work on that. He'll give me like warm-up programs, all because I just want to be an able body longer in the years of my life. And I think that's something people don't even think about now, which is crazy because like it's the social media, man. We get stimulation off the swiping, the tapping. So we don't think that. But if you can just set that up, man, I know it's addictive. We all get to it. But if you can just sit it down for an hour and work out in a way that you enjoy it, if that's skipping, cool, skip for a fucking hour. That'll hurt, but do it. If you can put your phone on airplane mode and walk in the woods, like hike for an hour, 2 hours, do it. Because I'm a big believer, man, like you need to find other ways to stimulate yourself. And like for me, getting outdoors is that.
Yeah, for sure. And talking about social media, I think this would be a good way to round out our discussion that we've been talking about today. You've been doing the social media thing for a bit. You're like a stoic person, you like to keep to yourself. How do you find your ability to make content and content that's easily digestible, but also still maintaining your own solitude? And do you have much engagement with people, or is it selective to people that you engage with in terms of, or like, how do you find the time essentially to be able to be putting this content out as well as balancing that lifestyle that you're actually showing? You know what I mean?
So I guess I'll answer this in a different way to take this question. I use social media as a way to show people it is that easy. I want to be approachable. If anybody ever had any questions, because I'm a big believer, man. And if you don't have anybody to do the plan with, do it anyways.
Mm-hmm.
And it's gonna be like workout alone, hike alone, camp alone, like hunt alone. Like I don't need people. Don't get me wrong. I'm a very Ryan. You know me. I'm a very
Yeah.
social.
Right. Exactly.
Shouldn't chase the social stimulation all the time. I use my social media to show like it is that easy. You'll see me like I post a lot of like my workouts, what I do, what I've did in that like hour and a half, hour to give people an idea. You don't need sometimes a fancy. That's one reason I do CrossFit. Sometimes we use no equipment and it's some of the hardest workouts I've ever done. I'm doing a workout tomorrow. There's a pull-up bar. That's the only thing, that's the only equipment being used.
Right.
Oh fuck, that workout is gonna suck. Yeah. And even with hiking, like a lot of people like it's cool. This is the positive thing about social media. There's a lot of people who do message me and say, or they respond to my story and they say, because I post a lot of stories and I try to do it as soon as possible. And this, so say if I were to go hiking today or I were to go on, take my dog on a little adventure, as weird as that
Right.
sounds, I get fulfillment when my dog comes home and knocks out.
Right.
Great feeling.
Oh, I'm the
So,
exact same way. I'm the
yeah,
exact same
and
way.
you feel it's probably that I'm not a parent, but it's probably a very good feeling. It's probably very similar feeling to what a parent gets when their kid is just zonked from a big day.
Like I gave him a good day.
And all I do, man, and it's people like will message me and say, "Oh, that looks so peaceful." And when all I did was post like me hiking, and this is not discrediting what I do. I post a video, like 3-4 videos. Just I think at most you can upload on a story on Instagram is like 45 seconds.
Right.
With some music over it, and people love it. And they're like, "Oh man, I love it." And then when they see me in person, like, "Todd, man, I love what you're doing." And I said, "Man, legit, I'm walking in the woods." Like,
You
that's
know what's crazy? What's crazy is what you tell them. You go, imagine fucking being there.
yeah, that's right.
You know what I mean? Where
So,
they're like, that's amazing, and you're like,
I say that to people all the time. I say, dude, like, it's one thing to watch it, but you should do it.
yeah,
Because Ryan, you've been to the Rockies, right?
yeah,
So that's the best example. Like you can post a picture of the mountains or when you're on top of a mountain, and this is something we can relate to.
Mm.
You can show someone a picture, and anybody listening, you show someone a picture of something you've been there, they don't understand it.
no.
They're
And
all
you're
that such a picture. Like
yeah.
you have no idea
It's like if you're feeling a profound emotion by looking at this photo, think about the profound emotion that I was being in this moment and
yeah.
feeling what I felt or whatever it is. So I think people don't really get that type of spiritual aspect anymore from doing it.
You need to do it though.
Yes. But that's also a good thing that you have this social media presence and you're able to, if anything, give the reality a life and say, okay, it's just that easy, right?
And actually, it was me and a good friend. I love her dearly. She's fucking just dope, fucking human. It was her birthday last week, and it was middle of the day. And I'm big on not making plans. I called her up and said, "Fuck, dude, happy birthday!" I didn't even realize. She's just like, "So what are you doing?" She's nothing. I got off back shift from at the gym. I said, "Okay, do you want to go to Cape Breton or do you want to go to Parsbro?" In Parsbro, just
Right.
tectonic plates shifted and created a bunch of fucking waterfalls all over the place.
Right.
So I said, let's take the dogs up Parsbro. So, okay. So went up there, hiked a bunch, checked out a bunch of different waterfalls, and just a fucking top tier day, man.
Mm-hmm.
And the next day, she messaged me and she said, "Hey, do you want to go to Cape Breton?" I said, "Fuck, but where at?" We said this one hiking trail. We've both done, but we wanted to redo it. And I said, "Fuck, it's like a 2-hour drive to get there, and then it's like a 2-hour hike, and then 2 hour like." I said, fuck it, let's go. Had very little after the day, but it's that easy, man. Like we did have time. We did like when you put out the time, and we would have got back at 9:00. Cool. Guess what? We got back at 9:00. It was fine. A lot of people think just because like maybe the day is a little bit shot.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe the day did start off a little rough. Maybe it's 1 PM. You can still start a thing. You can still do
100%. And I think that kind of spontaneity or that kind of get up and do it attitude is just and it's great for creating those like moments where you not necessarily ever would have thought you would be in, and you shock yourself in terms of something you're able to step out of your comfort zone.
And I remember when I posted both of those days, like a little wrap up, like a story, because that's the way I look at a story. Story's like a run through of your day. If you're active, man, It
Yeah.
gives people the opportunity to ask about it. And anybody who asked me about those certain trips, and oh, where's that? And I said, I would tell them where it's at, tell them location, give them a brief, and if they had any more questions about it, I said, yeah, I went up on a whim because legit both trips were on a whim.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and it gives them that person that I'm talking to, even if you only have a few hours, like if you can do a lot in a few hours.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
Like, and our location's good, whereas like people look like Truro, New Glasgow is very central of Nova Scotia. You're 2 hours away from everything.
Oh yeah. And I
Yep.
think I had a fact here, and it was like I was gonna check this out. Speaking of that, Nova Scotia has 13,300 kilometers of coastline, which is more double the width of Canada. No matter no matter where you are in the province, you'll never be more than 60 kilometers from the sea. This extensive coastline includes over 3,800 islands, making it a heaven to maritime activities and exploration. I
Yeah,
thought that was crazy.
me and this friend that I have, we are talking about it, and every time we go out to do something, we'll laugh and we'll say, "Man, there's so many people that aren't doing this,"
Oh yeah, oh yeah, and
and it's at your fingertips.
and, but the thing is, it's very exciting to see that you want to share that, because it shows a lot about like where you are with your passions and how you like to deliver that, and how it's very easy to see that you're very passionate because you don't carry any shame or like any
No,
embarrassment when you're posting this stuff, right? Where it's
I
not
used to,
gimmicky, you're doing it.
yeah, I used to, man. I used to think it was
Yeah,
so weird. I was like,
right.
man, I'm 30 years old posting like videos of me fucking hiking with my, and I was like, no, because there's a lot of people in different situations,
Mm-hmm.
and whatever you find for filming it, it doesn't matter. It's the right thing to do. Does that make
And,
sense?
and you have to think too, like if you're thinking something's corny, so like me starting this podcast, like the whole idea is you almost have like imposter syndrome, where you're like, okay, am I like pretending to be the guy, or am I like the guy? So,
Yeah.
but it's one of those things where you have to embody it. And I've been reading this book called Atomic Habits, and they say that
Yes. Look,
they have these techniques where you say it's about identifying yourself. You're not aspiring to be a hunter. The moment you start to learn a bow, the moment you start to get your hunting license, you now identify as a hunter. And right, so little. And I think in terms of a social media presence, or like once you start to carry that identity, it starts to become like something that you actually like. It becomes like a core value, right?
yeah, and the thing is, man, like with the social media, you're opening yourself to be judged.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that because if they turn the comments off and you could just like things, it'd be way easier.
Oh
Uh,
yeah. The comments are what you want, though.
yes, because
Yeah.
nobody's gonna. But
But you need to be in a certain mindset to be able to deal with
if,
that.
if tomorrow you ended up viral, if
Right.
tomorrow I ended up viral,
How
there's
would you
going to be
handle that, right?
a
Like,
length of hate that comes with it, and you're always going to get judged. I heard this the other day, like two things I heard, and I wanted to bring it up today, and it said, "Man, you're going to get judged no matter what.
mm-hmm.
Whether
Yeah.
you're doing shit you actually hate, like you go home and you say, man, this day sucked,' and you're going to be judged on that day. And no matter what, if you had a good day, you'll be judged on that too. So do what you actually enjoy. Do you find fulfillment? Because if you don't find fulfillment in your life, you're going to hate your life. It's going to be very short, man. For all we know, this is one ride we get.
Right.
And the other thing, man, was like, we all need to choose our heart. And I like someone sent me this reel, and I hope this person watches this because this did actually speak out to me. And it's hard to do everything. It's hard to find solitude. That's something hard. And if you're not a social person and it's good to be social, it's hard to be social. And it's hard for some people to work out 5 days a week.
Right.
It's hard to hold good family values. If that's not who you are, that's something you should do.
Right.
So everything is going to be hard in every area you do. You just choose your heart. Simple as this.
And a lot of things too is you have to be okay with like fumbling it a bit, or going, you know what? Like I had the right idea, but I didn't do this right, or I didn't, and
I
that's okay.
just a little bit.
Right. And you say that's okay. Like I could have ate an hour like earlier before I ran, and I had a shitty run or I had a subpar run, but this can't stop me from getting up and running tomorrow. And having that type of drive where you're like, it's not necessarily about the end game, it's about like the development, and it's about, every time I can look back and say, oh shit, look at that milestone. Look at that milestone. Like Joe Rogan talks about it with a mental cookie jar, and he goes, oh fuck, like he goes, like I look back and I go, yeah, I feel like shit, but like I did this and I ran a 10K in under an hour, and I did this and I shot this many deer and this many whatever, right? So it's one of these things where you have to, like, again, we were already talking about this, where you have to give yourself that dignity and have that respect for yourself and say, no, like there are a lot of things that people do in their life that are extremely like that kind of people don't necessarily can view it from a lens of what would this look like to someone who didn't necessarily do this, and should I be really proud of this moment?
So, like, to build on that a little bit, that's one reason like CrossFit I actually really enjoy, in the sense because like we'll do these workouts and like benchmark workouts, and we log your time. We have an app and we log our time, and like these benchmark workouts that are known worldwide.
Right.
And there's a few workouts, like my Fran time, like I told you, that took me like 12 minutes to do my first time. That's like a 4. I think my best time is like 3:45 now. So I not only have to, but then I redid it a few months ago, and I showed up short by a minute and a half.
Right.
I was like, man, but you can't always get better.
Right. And the thing is, these are going to be the things that are like, you got to find out where the holes are, right? Like, you're not going to, like, success teaches you nothing. Like, it's the failures that, right? Like, it's the failures that you go, oh, that was a problem, or, oh, I'm doing this too much. Or like for me, I there was just a lot of things where I was like, oh, maybe I'm like just spending too much time behind a screen, or like my time behind a screen isn't effective enough. And I have to reoperate the way that I see social media, or like change tactics in a way. But yeah, like I think it's good to see it on that sense and give yourself like a little bit of slack to make those mistakes and have a kind of forgiveness for yourself, because like I don't think a lot of people have that. Like the first time they fail, they go, okay, I'm shit, I'm never going to be able to do this. And that's that, right? So yeah.
Starting anything, you're gonna feel like shit. You're gonna feel like you can't do it, and it's shitty because it gets in some people's head that they can't do it, so they just get discouraged and stop. But that goes back to setting realistic goals. Someone said to me last night about we were at work and they were talking about starting to work out, and they said, "Do you think it's beneficial, like just to?" Because we got a gym at work, and they said, do you think it's beneficial just to work out for 20 minutes? I said, how long are you working out now? And they said, I'm not. I said, okay. So your long week, short week, you work out 20 minutes on your short week. That's 60 minutes on your long week. I said, oh, so overall, like during the week, like you're actually getting more times sweating and moving than you were before. I said, I think that's beneficial.
100%.
If it's 20 minutes, 20 minutes, cool. I said, at some point, maybe you do 40 minutes. You use your whole break. Let's say you use your whole break at work for a gym workout. And then at some point, I said, let's just talk crazy. I said, then after work, you go for a 10-minute walk. Just a 10-minute walk.
It's nothing crazy, but like the compounding effects of
I said,
doing, right?
So every day you do a 10-minute walk or 20-minute walk. There's 7 days a week. That's a 70-minute walk. I said, you need, and then it tied back to what I said about longevity. I said, you need to figure out, like, how can I just chip away at me living a healthier life for longer? Not cool. I start a diet and I do it for 1 month. It doesn't benefit you next year. Doesn't. I started a workout routine at home and I did it for 2 months. I feel amazing, but I'm not doing it in a year's time. So did it benefit you?
No.
Did it? Like, it doesn't.
Yeah. And that's the thing, like it's consistency, and consistency is key. And
with everything.
100%. And just getting to the conclusion of this episode, I want to know what do you have for your like future plans? What do you have up to? What are your short-term and long-term goals within the next couple months, couple years?
Couple months, man. There's a few things that I got planned. Not really goals per se, but things like I'm big now, and Ryan and me changing my focus in a lot of things in the sense like the next few months and even the next few years, like I want to collect a lot of experiences.
That's fair.
I want to. Yeah, I visited the Rockies there last year, man, for the first time. And that's embarrassing for me to say. It was embarrassing for me to say that, oh, the first time I legitimately took a trip just to forget about everything and experience things was last year.
Right.
Um, that's changing. I want to be able to, again, going back to like my overall goals of being a good father at some point in my life. Hopefully, I'm lucky enough to experience that.
Right.
I want to be able to look at my kid and they say, "Oh, Dad, what do you think about me doing this?" I want to have an experience to relate to them. So buy that ticket, go see that spot, go do that thing. I want to be able to give them an educated opinion based off experience. So I am like, the next few months, I do have some cool little trips lined up in the sense of just they're all outdoorsy stuff. Like again, I didn't know I was, but next weekend planning a huge 53-kilometer backpack. So that'll be
Nice.
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's and again, it's all coastal. It's all
Sure.
coastal, so that'll be
That's
some of the
amazing.
highest cliffs in Nova Scotia. That's gonna be dope. Some of the highest ups and the lowest downs. It sucks, but it's hard things are good. Going back again, collecting experiences, long-term goals, man. Hopefully it all works out. I'm a little cliche in the sense like I do want a family, I do want a wife, I do want a kid. The downside of social media coming back is it's definitely changed the generation
Mm-hmm.
in ease of access.
Yep.
It's cool. It's cool. It's cool to have a lot of shit at your fingertips, but it's pretty toxic.
Yeah.
It's a bad mentality. I think yeah, without getting too much into that, it creates a very like disposable feeling. And for
Right.
someone, for people who really want to chase like wholesome people, like people that want to pursue, have an idea of kind of like a lifestyle they like, you need to throw it out like long term wise.
Mm-hmm.
And you just ride it out. That's what I'm finding, man. I found I was trying to like hold on to an idea of what I wanted my life to look at. And it gave me a lot of anxiety just thinking of it.
And, like everything has to fit so perfectly, or everything
And
kind of has to fall in place. Like,
yeah, yeah. And
yeah,
it sounds so fucking hippy dippy,
yeah,
but you just need to know where you want to be and don't stray away from your morals, your ethics, your core beliefs. Don't stray away from them. Gain experiences where you want to. Like, there's nothing wrong with saying you don't want to do something. Like your
uh-huh.
friends want to go fucking at a festival, man. If that's not your place, don't fucking go.
Right, exactly. And I think that gives people a lot more, like, when people are honest with themselves, especially when it comes towards social media, like
Awesome.
it is, because like then it's not the fact that I have stage fright for being authentic, it's the fact that like I'm keeping up with an act that I'm not really okay with, or like I'm putting on this
Yeah,
face for
and
social
that'll
media.
that'll bleed through eventually. Like
Right.
you can only fake it for so long, dude. Like
Exactly. And like you kind of
same
have
with the
to bring
social
your
media.
authentic self.
Yeah, if you're not, it sounds so fucking weird. If you're not legitimately like posting, if you're not doing like if you're not displaying, and this is like personally, like me with
Yeah.
me and you in this conversation right now, if you're not authentically being yourself, however that looks, it will bleed through. People will catch on, and then all of a sudden you're fake as fuck.
Yeah, exactly. And
So
like it's very funny you say that, because like you watch certain podcasts and stuff, and there was one that I watched and he kind of called the guy out, and he's, "Hey, is this you being like a character because you're scared of the fallout? There's high risks. So it's not that you're being a character to be like a snake, but you're doing it in a way to shield yourself, because this is a very high stakes social interaction, or you have a lot that you could lose off of it, right? So you're not necessarily being a character out of rudeness, but you're being a character because you're worried about what that reaction's going to be, and if you're going to be able to digest that. Does that make sense?
yeah, 100%. And some people just, oh, that got me with social media, that got me the attention. So I'm gonna go that way with who I am.
Exactly.
And then you lose this core belief and that moral, and oh, you don't do that anymore, and you're so far this way now that you're looking at who you used to be, and you're like, oh, that's not even me anymore.
And how much are you following the metrics of like what's popular, right? Like, oh, I'm gonna clip it with this audio, or I'm gonna do this type of workout, or I'm gonna try to link up with these type of people because I know it's gonna grow me. But how much is this kind of like diluting my true what I want to be?
It's funny because I'll post like like my workout or something. There'll be like a little short snippet of my workout, and then I'll write the description of what I did for that hour or whatever. And I do that knowing to give people ideas, right? I'll put audio to it, and a lot of times like fucking country or it's fucking Noah Khan, like just music, right?
Right.
And like, man, what do you like? That's what I work out to.
Right.
It's
Right.
legit what my ears have done. It's the odd time I'll have some fast-paced shit going, but like for the most part, anytime I pick an audio, it's generally the audio that was stuck in my head or I was listening to when I was doing it. I want the most authentic feel, like, oh, this is what's going on.
I do the same thing. I'll be like listening to a song and I'll be walking my dog and I'll be like, this would be like fire in a reel.
Yeah.
Like,
so
this
then
song would be, and then I make the reel just based on what I like. It's very funny how like the music can elicit like a certain emotion, and then
like sometimes like when I go on hikes, like I'll either be on my way there or on my way back, and a song will come on, and I'm like, oh man, like that wrapped up like this trip, and I'll just take a picture of it and say, we're gonna make this audio work. And it's a good way to get the feel of something by displaying like, oh, this is what Tyler listens to. So it's almost like you can still, your audience may not be who your audience may not be as huge, but it's the quantity of who you want. It's
no, I get what
cool.
you're saying.
I don't give a shit if 10 people are following my shit, but if they care, then that's more valuable than 1,000 people, right?
Exactly. And if you made a lasting impression on someone, it's again when we go back to like leaving a legacy and stuff like that, it's something that you just know that I might have not have made the biggest impact of, say, someone who's a celebrity, but I know that like I've changed someone's life, or like I've at least changed the opinion of someone or made someone smile behind a screen. And I think that's something that people take for granted with social media, and they say like, how many people that go to social media to find that inspiration stuff, and maybe watching a reel of yours with that music was something that like made them happier than they were 5 seconds ago, right? I think that's a lot of things people misunderstand, that this is a worldwide platform and it's not necessarily your community that's the only people that are watching it. And and then you think too, can you use social media to find a bigger purpose, where it's maybe what I'm talking about is something that I'm knowledgeable in, and like it is actually very beneficial. So like with your workouts, how many people are taking those workouts now, getting their own benefits in the CrossFit world? So that's amazing.
I had a friend that had a bunch of screenshots of my stories of my work.
Of just like doing the workouts, right?
It was super cool because they said, oh, like, what'd you do here? And I said, what do you mean? He said, oh, I screenshot it. He brought it up. I said, holy shit, man.
Then you go, but then you say, and then you have a back catalog, and then it's this mental cookie jar of going,
sure is what I'm doing and the intent that I have, because you never know. You're like, you really don't know.
No.
Okay, cool. At least I'm helping someone.
Yeah. And then that kind of helps you to get back to the drawing board and saying, oh, this content was digested this way. The way I film it is like, it could be this, or the angles that I'm filming it, or the way that I'm like putting the text or whatever it is. Like, I think that it has a huge creativity base, but it's like, it's something that keeps you like propelled to doing the things you like to do as well. Like, it's not a hindrance, because it's another like attachment of like, I'm sharing that already love for hunting and the love for CrossFit and the love for doing this. So like making the content is almost like, it's a stupid question. Why wouldn't I?
Yeah, it's actually weird, because I find myself sometimes, and I'll get back from like a hike or a workout, and I did record something, and I'm like, do I share this? Why? And I get in my own head and I say, why am I doing it?
Right.
And I was like, because like, this isn't my identity. So it's not my identity.
No.
And then I say, you know what? Someone might enjoy it. Like someone might be stuck at the gym and they say, oh, fuck, what do I do today? And then if they see that I did 500-meter row times, or that I did some type of row or some type of skipping or some type of like skill work, I'm like, huh. He obviously enjoyed that because he posted it, and I did. I seldom go to the gym and don't enjoy myself.
Right.
So then they do it, and then they might not even tell me they had a great workout. A lot of times they don't, or like they might not go on that hike and outreach to me, but they went on that hike, or they did a workout somewhere, or they got maybe a small idea, and hey, that's worth it. Why not? Why not?
100%. Um, to
Because you
that's
don't need, you don't always need that reassurance from people. If you chase reassurance from people, you'll go fucking nuts. Because a lot of people aren't always going to give you that reassurance. A lot of people aren't going to give you that compliment or thank you or whatever. I try to be my best person. Like when I notice like something, I tell them, but I don't always, and that's just being human, right?
yeah. Is there any final thoughts you want to share with the audience just to wrap up our discussion? I think I honestly got to crack open a couple different layers of you, which was fantastic, and it was amazing to be able to catch up with you. But I want to know what would you like to be your mark with the audience, or what do you think you would want to encapsulate? You went through like a brief background of your childhood, how you ended up where you're going. We talked into some hunting, CrossFit, social media. Just give the audience a little bit of send off, maybe a little bit of advice moving forward.
Probably just get out there, man. Just fucking do the thing. Do it. If it's hard, do it. Yeah. If there's a little bit in if something visits your head more than once, it's a reoccurring thing. Oh, I should try that. Just do it. Ryan, you've done it.
Yeah, the only way to do the thing is to do the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Talking about it isn't doing it.
yeah.
Talking about it isn't doing it. And you don't always need people to do it with.
Mm-hmm. And that's, I think too, that's one of these things where it's something that you're able to have that boundary of, you're still able to keep that solitude as well as have an online social media presence, and you're not really getting those two mixed, or you're not letting
No.
one override the other, right? Which is very admirable.
A lot of people will always ask me, "Oh, who'd you get?" I'll fuck off to Paris Road myself, or just very small places where you can do a lot of outdoor stuff. Who'd you go with? I said, my dog.
Yeah.
And it sounds silly, but it's legit. Man, like it's a way to keep my solitude because, man, there is huge strength in solitude. It can be a double-edged sword for sure, but you need to be your best friend. You need to be able to you need to be able to make yourself happy, because if you can't produce uh, the equation to make yourself happy, man, you're going to have a hell of a time trying to make someone else happy.
For
Yeah,
sure.
it's fucking hard because you're gonna make them happy, and then you're gonna wonder why you're not happy. You're making them happy, but you're not. That's what they say.
Is there I'll obviously be adding all of your socials and everything to the videos and the layouts, but how can people get a hold of you? Mainly Instagram, if people are looking to follow you on your journey.
Instagram's not all the way. Like you're probably like Facebook is like I use that strictly for like family now. There's some people, but Instagram is a way to outreach to me. I have a YouTube link to that, but that's like just hunting videos. Just to give, but yeah, Instagram's a way.
Sounds good. I am very happy and grateful to have you as a friend, and I'm thank you very much for having you on the show, Tyler. It was a very great hour and a bit. Um, can't wait to have you on the show another time, another day, and catch up with you some more. I'll be texting you after this to follow up, baby boo.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
All right. Thanks, brother.